Welcome to the Empowerment Hour, a podcast dedicated to the woman ready to take charge of her life, live in her purpose, and be unapologetically authentic. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, award-winning author, proud wife and mother, and committed empowerment specialist who is obsessed with seeing women live up to their fullest potential. As the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah and mommypreneur, my goal is to share my secrets on discovering your purpose, living intentionally, chasing your dreams, and learning to balance it all. If you're ready to make a change and start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Welcome to this week's episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. Thank you once again for joining me and for just being a part of my journey. You know, I started this podcast as an extension of getting my voice out there. You know, I originally started as a writer. I do a lot of blogging. I've written 4 books. And so for me, the podcasting was just a natural step for me to go in, especially with the direction that I have for my life and for the vision of my life. So this week, I'm really excited because I want to talk about the power of sisterhood. We're also going to be talking about getting clear on your vision and how to remain true to yourself in the process. This past Sunday, I was honored and selected as one of the 25 Latinas to attend the Women's HERstory Brunch hosted by the Latina Connect. And if you're familiar with my work and if you've been following me for a while, then you know that I've attended a few of their events. And they're really geared towards female empowerment. They focus a lot on sisterhood and how we show up for each other and how we represent ourselves in the world as women, as Latinas. And so the brunch took place at the trendy Vandal restaurant in the Lower East Side. You know, if you're from New York City, it's near the Essex, Delancey Street area. And I showed up there around, I think it was 1 o'clock was the time that the brunch was scheduled to start. And as soon as I walked in the door, I was greeted by a representative of the sponsor for the afternoon, which was La Pinta champagne or beverage. Let me look them up really quickly because I want to get their name correct. So it was La Pinta pomegranate liqueur. And when I tell you, ladies, that liqueur is divine. Oh my God, it was so delicious. But anyway, I got greeted at the door by their representative, a super sweet woman, really friendly. I can't remember her name off of the top of my head, but one of the things that she spoke about during the time that we were there is how she feels responsible for giving opportunities to Latinas, to fellow brown girls, and because she's in a position to do so, that when she's looking to hire someone, you know, she really looks to hire the brown girl first. You know, and that really spoke to me because we, as women of color, as Latinas, sometimes when we get into positions of authority, when we get into those positions where we can make decisions, it's important that we use that authority to help our fellow women of color to get in the door, right? Because so many times we're locked out of positions simply because of how we look. You know, so it was really important it really touched me rather when she spoke about that, and when she spoke about also the higher expectations that she has for her brown sisters, so that when she gives them this opportunity, she says that it's really easy for her to be supportive. She can compliment a woman on how she looks, on her outfit, on her shoes, but in the same breath, she also expects for them to give 110%. Because unfortunately, when we go out into the world, it's not a leveled playing field for us. And so, yes, we have to work harder and we have to prove ourselves more just to be seen as equals to our white counterparts, right? And I don't want to make this a black, white, brown issue, but really for Latinas, for women of color, for brown and black women, it is our reality. And to avoid that would almost be just not realistic. But so we I showed up and I was able to connect, as always, with some really amazing women. And one thing I really love about these types of events and get-togethers is that I always get an opportunity to meet and connect with other women. And this time I was seated right in between Jessica Castro, who, if you're familiar with reality TV, she was the star of the show Married at First Sight. I never watched it, but from what I understand, people signed up and they get paired with someone, and I guess you get married at first sight, and then you kind of work on the relationship after that. I'm not really sure. In any case, she was the star of that show, and I was seated next to her, and then on my left, I was seated next to this a beauty blogger. She's, she has a really huge following on Instagram. Her name is Angie Martinez. Beautiful, both beautiful women. And across from me was Jasenia Weiss and Allie, and both of them have their own podcast. I believe it's called the Sincerely Podcast. And I know Jasenia, I'm familiar with her work because she's done a lot of work with thisis50.com. She was one of Diddy's Ciroc girls. And I've also followed her journey. She's really big on fitness. She's a beautiful girl. Her and Allie, both very beautiful, very outgoing. And we talked a lot, in particular, about our own journeys, our own struggles as women. And when I was speaking with Jasenia, one of the things that really moved me was how open and transparent she was with her own story. And she talked about miscarrying and how she went through an ectopic pregnancy. She talked about being obese as a young girl. She said she weighed... at her heaviest, she was 200 pounds. And we talked about bullying and all of these things that we as women struggle with, right? And then when we see beautiful women like Jasenia, like Angie, like Jessica, like Allie, and we see them on social media, we see them on Instagram, on Facebook, and they're posting all of these beautiful photos of themselves, working out, and their flat stomachs, and beautiful hair and makeup. It's very easy for us to compare ourselves to these images and feel as if we don't measure up to that. And one of the things that she was very clear on saying during a conversation was that she has struggles just like everyone else, but the difference is that she does not post the struggles, right? And that goes true for myself too. People may see me and they may think that I have things all together, and they may think that I make this mommy wife thing easy, make it look easy, but it's not. But the difference is that I only want to post positivity. I'm not here to post negativity, though I do share my struggles when I have my events and I talk to women one-on-one, and sometimes I even share those struggles here on the podcast. It's not something that I'm advertising, right? So if my husband and I, get into an argument, I'm not putting that on social media, because at the end of the day, really, that's no one's business. But what I do is that I talk about the struggles of marriage, right? And how you have to be able to communicate with your partner to get through that, because there's no perfect relationship, guys. Okay, my husband and I, we've been together for 20 years, right? And it hasn't been easy street, for those 20 years. It's been a bumpy path, right? There have been ups, there have been downs. But why we've lasted so long is that we've been able to communicate through those down times. And we don't put our business out there for people to judge us. Because it's really easy to judge people, right? But it's also, for me anyway, it's also very important to remain authentic and remain transparent, and to tell people that, yes, I've been with my partner, for this long. We have an amazing relationship. We have a beautiful family. He supports me in everything that I do. But that doesn't mean that we don't have our arguments. It doesn't mean that we don't have our struggles. It means that we're human, right? And we go through stuff just like everyone else. But you have to learn, especially when you're in the public eye, you have to learn how to keep something for yourself. Everything is not for the public, because when you do that, it's easy to allow people to get in your ear, right? And we're human. And sometimes those things seep into our subconscious, and then we allow that to influence our decisions. And really, that's not good when you're talking about your personal life, about your family life, about your relationships. But anyway, I feel like I kind of veered off a little bit here. But these were some of the things that we were talking about, during the brunch. And, we had a fabulous meal. The food was absolutely divine. The connections that I made with the women, I feel, were real connections, because I exchanged contact information with a lot of the women there. We've already been in contact since then. I'm planning, to meet up with some of these women on my own. We're going to do brunch, we're going to do dinner, we're going to, really learn more about each other, because it's really important to form genuine connections with women, with people in general, but particularly with women, because we all go through the same things. Even though it may not appear like we do, we absolutely do. So one of the, segments during the brunch was a conversation that was moderated by Taia Smart Young, and I hope I'm saying her name correctly, but she's the managing editor at Latina magazine. And they started the conversation off. When we first arrived, there were little cards where we were seated, and the card said, if you were the president, or if you had the ability to make 3 laws, what would they be? And so we were each supposed to, give three examples of that. And so that was how she started the conversation, and some of that dialogue, one of the things that they said was that, women need to get sufficient maternity leave time, right? Because unfortunately in this country, they expect us, to give birth to these babies and then immediately go back to work, and for many of us, the reality is we have to go back to work because we need income, right? We have to then be able to support that baby. Milk and Pampers are not cheap, guys, so that was one of the things we discussed. We also talked about this perceived, competition that exists among women, how society, how men specifically have kind of fostered the environment where we feel like we have to compete with the woman next to us, where we have to compete for jobs, where we have to compete for men, where we have to compete just to be seen, right? So we feel like we have to outdo the woman that's next to us, or outdo the woman, in front of us or behind us, when in reality, we each bring something different, and one of the things that I spoke about at the brunch. And something that I've spoken about recently on my social media is that I don't subscribe to this idea of competition. That ideology doesn't exist for me, primarily because I feel that there's no one who can do what I do, because I'm an individual, I'm unique. And although we may be in the same industry, although we may be in the same field, the way I deliver my message is going to be completely different from the way the next woman's going to deliver the message, right? And there's someone out there who needs to hear the message the way that I deliver it, because the way the next woman says it, that may not resonate with this person, so I don't believe I'm in competition with anyone, and it's important that we all learn to see that, because we each bring something different to the table, be it in our delivery, be it in how we look, how we present ourselves, all of these things. And I think that our differences really should be celebrated instead of us feeling like we have to compete with the next woman, like we feel like we have to one up her or be better than her, or even knock her down so that we can rise. And so a lot of the work that I do really is to dismantle that sort of thinking. So I'm always seeking out new relationships with women, because I'm looking to collaborate with women. I'm looking to build networks with women, and by doing so, we begin to tear down this ideology that there isn't enough success for all of us, or enough success to go around, because there absolutely is. And I find that when one of us rises, when one of us are, in a position of power, then that allows us to bring others along with us. Right? And that's really where we should all want to be. The more of us that are succeeding, then the more possibilities and opportunities exist for the rest of us. We don't all have to claw our way to the top and try to bring the next woman down, because there's absolutely enough success, enough wealth, enough of the things that we want to go around. And so I think that with that, a part of understanding that there isn't competition and understanding that we're individuals is also understanding the vision that we each want for ourselves. Because my vision of my life may not necessarily be the vision that the next woman has. So why would I want to compete with her? Why would I want to step in her lane when I have no idea what her end goal is? Right? So that's why you have to be clear on what you want your vision to be. Where do you see your life? Where do you see yourself 10, 20 years from now? What do you see your legacy as being? And once you get clear on that vision, then you can learn to kind of dismantle that idea that's rooted in competition. Because if we're not all going to end up in the same place, then there's no way we can possibly compete with one another. Right? Your journey is your journey. My journey is my journey. And though it may appear that we're walking parallel roads, somewhere down the road, I might veer off. I'm going to turn. I'm going to make a right. You're going to make a left. Right? Because we're not going to end up at the same place. Because my dreams are mine alone. And so you have to be clear on that vision. And for those of you that know me, I've dubbed myself the Latina Oprah. I'm the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah, and I say that not because I want to be the next Oprah, but because for me, Oprah represents the kind of success that I want to have. Okay, I look at her and I look at the career that she's established for herself. I look at where she started. This is a woman who really started with nothing. Okay, she really worked her way to where she's at. And so for someone to come, from nothing and to achieve the level of success that she has, that's the vision that I have for myself. And so again, my journey and my path is not going to mirror Oprah's path, right? Because her experiences are her own, my experiences are my own, but she represents to me the success that I want to have. She is a media mogul. She has an incredible empire. She gives back so much to her community. She's a philanthropist. She owns her own network, television network. She's written books. She's an actress. She built her career as being a talk show host. So all of these things that she's done has led her to where she is. And so that is what I want for myself, which is why I've kind of branched out into all of these different avenues, but they're all centered around the same purpose, helping others. And that's really what my life is about. And it's what my vision is, and so when I'm old and gray, and when I'm on my deathbed, and when I come face to face with my creator, I want to be able to say that I spent my life, the purpose of my life was to help others, was to empower others, was to inspire others. My purpose is to be in the service of others. And that is what my vision is. So everything that I do is centered around that. And so that's what I mean when I talk about being clear on your vision. And if you don't know what that is right now, that's fine. But what it means is that you then have to do the internal work. You have to do the self-work that's going to allow you to look within yourself to really tap into who you are at your core and help you identify what most inspires you, what you're most passionate about, and what is the purpose for your life. Because we're each here for a reason. You're not here by accident. Okay, the fact that you were born into the life that you were born into is not a mistake. So you have to figure out what your purpose is, be clear on your vision, and then spend every single day of your life living that purpose and working towards creating that vision for yourself. And I have to tell you that the best way to do that, guys, is just by being true to who you are. And you stay true to who you are when you're clear about what you want. Okay, so when you feel yourself doing something that makes you deviate from your core values and your core principles, then you know that you're not remaining authentic to yourself. And I talk about authenticity because I had a conversation the other day with my sister, and I share this story because I want people to understand that the work that I do is as much for myself as it is for others. And so what I mean is that I'm human, right? And so I'm flawed just like everyone else. So although a lot of the work that I do focuses on supporting women, on sisterhood, on being inspirational, things can still get under my skin, right? Because unfortunately there are some women who are not about sisterhood, who really want to bring you down, who want to challenge you, who want to get under your skin and want to bring out the worst parts of you, right? And sometimes that happens to me. And sometimes I allow the pettiness of others to make me step out of who I am or who I intend to be. And my sister brings me back to reality though. And she said, and this is exactly what she tells me. She's like, do you think Oprah would be out there being ratchet and being petty? Right? And she's right. So you have to kind of center yourself back. But understand that you're also human. So there are going to be times when you're just going to act off of instinct, right? Because there's only so much we can take as human beings. So if people are going to come for you, your natural reaction is to fight back. But you have to step back and really think about it and think about where the other person is coming from and realize that their anger or their animosity towards you stems from something that's happening within themselves. So it's not really about you. You're just the target. And so when I allow myself to think of things that way, then it's really easy for me to center myself and for me to step back and kind of come back to who I am. Because like I can get petty ratchet with the rest of them. I'm still that Brooklyn girl, but I understand that the vision I have for my life is so much bigger than that. And so I have to be a living, walking representation of the message that I put out there. And with that said, that really closes out this week's segment of the Empowerment Hour podcast. Thank you for sticking with me, guys. I absolutely love the time that we spend together. I do this podcast for me, but I also do it for you. Thank you to all of you who comment, who give me feedback, who find my messages helpful. If there's something specific that you want me to cover, to talk about, if you have specific questions, please just reach out to me. You can DM me on Instagram. You can send them to my email at theempowermenthour@gmail.com. You can inbox me on Facebook. Anyway, you can send me, your commentary anyway. And if you've downloaded this podcast on iTunes, please, if you love it, leave a review, recommend it to your friends, and continue rocking with me. I do this for you guys. I love you. Have a wonderful week. Bye.